YouTube, it's your sewing teacher, Cece. So, this is what we're making. I don't know, is it in the whole frame, maybe? Holding it up? So, this is a centerpiece or a table topper for if you just want to fancy up your life. I had a lot of fun making this. It's a lot more structured and pattern than the original pattern was, which I absolutely love. This is actually my first time doing, like, the yarn, like, pull-through thing for quilting, because I didn't want to run it under the machine, mostly because I'm not good at that. But I had a lot of fun doing this. I really did enjoy making this project, and then with it, pumpkins. All the pumpkins. I love these pumpkins. They are forever. These are really easy, too. I threw these together because I figured this would not be complete without some, 3D centerpiece-ness to it. It also has one solid fabric for the back. This is going to be a repeating clip for all 4 of the November videos. Tools, tools, tools. Big thing to have is a rotary cutter, a cutting mat, and a ruler. This will help make straight lines easy. It will help make all of your square, rectangular, long pieces so much easier to cut. So, these are actually the same ones from the library because familiarity. When you use a rotary cutter, it does have a blade. This is the guard up. This is the guard down. Do not ever put this down with the guard down. So, always have the guard up. Do not ever put your fingers in the way of this. It is sharp. It is basically like a super fancy pizza cutter, except for fabric. So, I can cut through many layers of fabric with this as long as it's sharp. When it gets dull, you can either, it will probably get dull in spots, and you can either replace the blade or there are sharpeners for specific blade sizes. Highly recommend if you are going to do this to invest in a set of these. I think this was anywhere between $11 to $20 for this set on Amazon. Okay, quilted centerpiece. I am trying to fit this in frame as much as I can, and that is about the best it's going to get, it looks like. Okay. So I had originally started off with this design, which is a lot more hodgepodge than I wanted. And so I drew the basics and then filled in what I wanted the squares to look like. So this looks a little odd because I have it squished so it doesn't lay perfectly. So I'll run you through. So we have 4 8.5 by 8.5 sunflower bird squares. We have 4 8.5 by 4.5 orange leaf squares. We have 6 4.5 by 4.5 dark green leaves. We have 8 of the lighter green leaf ones. We have 8 of the brown, 4 of the 4.5 by 8.5 red, and then 10 of these metallic leaf ones, which are my personal favorite. So how this works is that there is a border, and the border basically defines each line. So we have this line that goes small, large, small, small, large, small. And that goes the same way, same direction on all the borders. Okay. And then you have these 4 solid pieces right here. Then you've got 5 4-square blocks as well. And so when these are sewn, they're supposed to be the same size as these ones, so that everything is homogeneous and looks pretty when you put it all together. I added a little more pattern to mine. Like, for example, you can tell that the brown goes this way, the green goes this way. Which also means that I just now noticed that I did this the wrong direction. So, like, there are V's created by these 2 portions. So V, V, cross. So there's basically supposed to be a V connecting from the border over. I realized I did these ones wrong. There we go. Okay. And then the 2 brown or the 2 dark green to bring in the border back in, and so everything looks nice and pretty. This is a lot of cutting, let me assure you. It looks like a lot of yardage, but it's actually not. I only used about like 9 inches total of each width of each fabric to get all of the squares. So that being said, here's the next portion. On top of that, you'll also need a backing piece, which is a 32.5 square. I chose this fabric because it is kind of like busy enough that if you flip it over, it looks good by itself. And then stuffed pumpkins, because I figure a centerpiece for kind of like Thanksgiving or harvest is not complete without pumpkins. So we've got small, medium, and large. These are kind of like cinch them so they're a ball and then embroidery thread them more than cut into a specific form. So like these are supposed to be really easy stuffed pumpkins. So I have halfway gotten through the process of the 4x4 blocks. So first things first, you're going to sew a quarter inch seam on all of these. I pressed the seams so that all of the seams are laying against the metallic side. This was a magical thing I learned when I made a quilt a while ago, and I actually had a quilter look at it. In order to get those corners to match up really well, when you sew it, you should have the seams going in opposite directions when you sew that seam. So, when you do these, you're going to do the same thing. So you're going to have your brown on one side, opposite on the other, and when you match up these seams, it should match up much nicer under the machine because you have these two different directions of the seam going. And then you can just sew it. So that's what I'm going to do to finish up these 5 blocks. The importance again for a chart cheat sheet. So I decided that I was going to sew everything in strips. So this strip, this strip, this strip. So I went ahead and did that. And then it gets to the part where you need to connect the strips, but you need the seams going in opposite directions. So what I did, and I'm going to leave the center seam out because of the fact that I don't need it at the moment. Or the center panel out, if I can find it. Oh, of course it's in the bottom. Okay. So I'm going to put that one to the side. So I've got this one, which is right side up because of the sunflowers, and the seams are going downward. So which means that if I did this correctly, the one that goes beside it, and this one is the right hand panel, which means it needs something on this side, one, then these seams are going up, and I did do that correctly. Woohoo. It's not a big deal to redo your seams. So I'm going to pin and sew that one. This one has the seams going down, and it needs to be sewn on this side. And so if I did this correctly, yep, seams are going in the same direction. So I'm going to have to turn that around, and seams go up on this one, which is okay. So I'll re-iron this one so that the seams are going upward, so that when I match everything, it behaves nicely. And then I'll have the center panel to sew these two sides too, which, yay, means I'm almost done. On top of that, you will also need batting that will go against this backing layer against the front. I chose not to do a border, like a bias tape or otherwise made border for this, because I feel like if I was going to do this, I would rather not do the border, sew everything, flip it inside out, top stitch it, and then just basically top stitch the top to make it fit. That's just my personal preference. If you wanted to make a border and then quilt everything together, then put a border on, I'm just forewarning you, that's not how I'm doing it. Jarvis is convinced he sees a fly, and he is on the prowl. Hunt. He's trying to catch it. Okay, so first things first for a stuffed pumpkin. You need a strip of fabric that is twice as long as it is tall. So, for example, this one is a small, which is 5 by 10. A medium is 7 by 14. And then a large is 10 by 20. Really great way to use up scrap fabric, let me know. Or Just letting you know. Okay, step 1, fold in half, stitch down. Then baste one side with a open stitch for gathering. Then repeat and do it on the other side. Then for the bottom of your pumpkin, you're going to gather it, just like this one. And then, like this one, you're going to sew it so that it stays where it's supposed to. So next portion I will show in a moment once I have all the steps ready to go. But this is at least to the point that you can stuff it. Things that I've seen is like using embroidery thread to do the bottom, but on the large pumpkin that's just not possible without it just coming back through with the amount of gathering it has. So I wouldn't worry too much about that, but if you feel like you can on the smaller ones, go for it. Oh, I love this fabric. It's in sunlight, so I'm going to have to continue this after I say this. Okay, so the batting is pinned quite securely to the top piece. So what I'm going to do next is, because the backing is the same exact size as the top piece, and I want to sew the two of them together without a border, I'm first going to have to secure this batting down to this layer, and then do something else to secure all of the layers together. So, my bright idea. I am going to follow these straight lines that I've already done, vertically down, so that this batting is more inclined to stay. I might also just do the horizontal lines too, but they're where I have most of the issues of not matching. But my vertical lines are just fine, which is part of the reason to do this in strips. So I'm going to go ahead and follow the stitching all the way down on the top vertically. Then I will sew all of the edges together with the backing, but I'll leave a hole to flip it inside out. After I have it flipped it inside out, I'm going to end up top stitching the edges. The reason for this is because it makes my life so much easier, and it makes it look super complete without a border. After I'm done with that top stitching, I am then going to take embroidery floss or cotton crochet thread that I have and go through at least once per square to secure all the layers together. I'm thinking once per square would look nicer, even though this square is 4 times the size of those ones, just because I think it'll look more complete if I do that. So that is my tentative plan at the moment. I have never done the yarn technique for this, but first things first is I'm going to sew the vertical lines all around the border. Then I'm going to stitch on the backing all the way around the border, and then flip it inside out. I'm trying to sew these seams, and I ended up not because I wanted to try something a little bit different. So this is yarn that's pulled through and tied on the front side. You can see a little bit of it on the other side. And then I'm going to go ahead and top stitch all the way around. I had made sure that I left a big enough hole right here to get everything through, with the pins still being through the batting and the top. And I didn't lose a hand, so I think we're good. So I'm going to go ahead and top stitch this, and it's done. Alright, here's stage 2. Stuff it, gather it, reinforce with an embroidery floss, or embroidery thread, or a crochet thread. Either works. I've been using both, of course, in the color of black. So you punch it through. You can use a darning needle and a pair of pliers, or I cheated, and this is my beetle needle from knitting. It has a crochet hook on one side, and then curved edge on the other, and I would just stab it through to the bottom, grab the thread, and pull it back up. That's how I was doing it. And then in order to make the knot, when I was able to have a buddy, I need your fingers. And then, see? And then put this at the top and trim the excess. Then glue a little bit of scrap fabric on the bottom, and then do the top, bottom, top, and then add a stem and leaves, and you're done! Isn't it so squishy? So squishy. And you don't have to use green and brown. You can use other colors. It's mine! Ranger in his natural coloring in the pumpkin patch. Anyway, if you like this video and want to see others like it, please like, comment, and subscribe. Ranger! Oh, is there a treat? Oh, no. We've been tempted by treats. We're gonna leave.